Suicune is bulky and has annoying defensive options against both rushdown characters and zoners. Let's break it all down. In field phase, its three key attacks are Mirror Coat, Counter Attack, and Forward Y. Mirror Coat causes huge problems for any sort of mid to long range poking and zoning. Let me start this entire guide by saying just walking around in field phase for extended periods without committing is perfectly okay. You have 80 seconds on the clock. This is the safest way to avoid getting clipped by Mirror Coat, and if they start rushing at you, homing has a very distinct animation which you can start CAing when you see it. If you have a piercing option, this is where you go for it.
Mirror Coat does not get armor until frame 11.
The beam itself pierces and is minus 16 on block. Due to this attack, you cannot just zone Suicune out unless you've got some super cheap pierces. But you can strike into it at a range where Suicune cannot reliably react. Also, you can use a move that has a lot of travel time, and when it finally connects with Suicune, you can jump or quickly sidestep to avoid the Mirror Coat beam. This is my personal favorite tactic. While using slower moves like this, be careful of Aurora Beam. Aurora Beam is pretty quick at 27 frames and reaches full screen with no travel time that I'm aware of. It's minus 28 on block, but it is often being used from far out. Counter Attack is the anti-rushdown option. Suicune easily has the most obnoxious counter attack and CADC in the entire game. If anything strikes into it, it can instantly go into the command counter with Y, which shoots upwards. By itself, the command counter is a 15 frame startup, so it's extremely difficult to melee in both phases. Uncharged counter attack is unsafe and the command counter is unsafe, but you have to guess between waiting for the follow-up or not, just like Fire Punch. Fully charged counter attack is minus 8 on block, and Suicune has 630 HP, so it's going for close quarters combat guessies at frame advantage all day. The risk reward is in its favor, so I usually just back off. Good news, this move can be whiff punished, especially because it has suspect tracking. Preemptive jumping moves from a distance can clip it too. Forward Y is a safe, high-reaching projectile. This move is actually the first attack that made me realize the absolute brilliance of sidewalking. In fact, if you're watching these guys in order, you've probably heard me say sidewalk or sidestep in field phase about 500 times now. And that's because the developers designed Pokkén with all these seemingly cheap, long-range, high-arcing moves that a lot of times are safe on armor if done from a distance, but almost none of the moves in field phase track. So, once more for the people in the back, sidewalk, whiff punish, footsies. Honestly, all the rest of these moves suck. I'm not even going to bother. Actually, Icy Wind is pretty decent, but you can just sidestep that again. Dual phase is more counterattack and Mirror Coat, but now we're going to be dealing with the potential to eat half life from close quarters guessies. In dual phase, counterattack is not going to be sidewalked. When it is charging, usually let it rock and back off. You have to respect it on its wake up too. In fact, counterattack is so annoying. Whenever I fight Suicune, I specifically choose either Emolga or Miss Magius. Most Suicune players' entire neutral is just CADC until they get in range to dash grab or dive kick, and then CADC some more. But Emolga shuts that whole thing down. The instant you see blue, fire it. But don't hesitate and don't do it preemptively. Miss Magius is an alternate choice because it pierces armor, allowing you to safely meter this character for once, especially from an air reset. But yeah, this move is a huge crutch, and if you get rid of that crutch, you can usually win. There are a lot of character-specific choices against this attack while it is charging. Shadow Mewtwo's jump Y in field and duel. Decidueye 6A, but Emolga in dual phase, specifically since it cannot be sidestepped, is my favorite. Suicune has a very far-reaching grab, and the risk-reward of trying to break it is not very good. It has 8Y, which is a safe true mid with a ridiculous anti-air hitbox that leads to a full combo, so don't hang out inside of Suicune's dash grab range unless you're applying your own offense, which ideally can still hit through counterattack. If you block an 8Y, I highly suggest backdashing and resetting to neutral. And if you have a good backdash, you can even whiff punish another one if it comes out. Jumping X leads to a full combo on hit, and it is a popular choice at Suicune's frame disadvantage. Again, backdashing whenever right next to it is what I do to not deal with this. 6YY is not safe, 4Y is not safe. You very rarely see people punish this, but 2X is minus 16 and unsafe. Most characters cannot reach, and even the ones that can usually need Suicune to be in its own corner. 8X is plus 4. And ideally don't be in Suicune's face long enough to block this because you cannot safely backdash its options after this. Most of the rest of these moves are safe. 6X is safe, Icy Wind is safe, but if you have something projectile invulnerable, you can punish Icy Wind on reaction. Let's be a kind of quick move. In Burst, Icy Wind loops are legit, and you've got to just block and predict the break attempt if they get close enough. Suicune's Burst counts as a projectile, so if you're feeling classy, you can do something about that. It's also a counter, so it can be pierced and grabbed as it is blue armor. And that's it for Suicune. Its entire game revolves around countering what you are doing, so the less you commit, the better you do against it. Next caller.